The Beach Boys with Dance, 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 a single released in October of 1964 and included on the album The Beach Boys Today, released in March of 1965. You know, this record is considered a landmark in the group's early 60s career. In fact, the second side of this album in particular is unique, and we'll talk about that and so much more with our guest today, David Beard, editor of Endless Summer Quarterly, who's been on the show several times now. And this is just a stellar album and certainly worthy of discussion. Let's just run down the track listing here. The album opens with a cover of Bobby Freeman's Do You Wanna Dance? Then we go into all originals, Good to My Baby, Don't Hurt My Little Sister, When I Grow Up to Be a Man, Help Me Rhonda, and Dance, Dance, Dance. Flip the record over for side 2, Please Let Me Wonder, a cover of the Students' song I'm So Young, followed by Kiss Me Baby, She Knows Me Too Well, In the Back of My Mind, and then rounding things out with, well, I guess an interview at the end of the album, Bull Session with Big Daddy. This is certainly a 4-star album all the way. It doesn't get much better than this when it comes to pop music. And the second side of this album has gotten a lot of attention over the years, certainly from critics and Beach Boys authors, because it's a collection of introspective ballads that seems to point the way towards Pet Sounds, released the following year. I don't know, David. How do you feel about that?
It's one of those things that I think it's easy for us to look at the catalog, knowing what was released a year later or 2 years later. When, if you look at it retrospectively from in 1965 at this point in their career, and Brian's personal life and how he was writing, I don't know if he knew at that time that he was evolving that way. Surely he knew he was creating music that was, in quotes, avant-garde to what is considered side A, but because side A was kind of like the pop record, and then these other songs were deeper, they were emotive, they were telling. But I don't know that he specifically knew, when I'm done with this, then I'm going to start working on a whole album like this, because that didn't really strike him, because he was trying to fulfill Capitol Records' contract obligations by putting out Summer Days and then doing the single Little Girl, I Once Knew, and then doing the Party album in a short time frame, because he knew, once he heard the Beatles' Rubber Soul, that he wanted to do something of that magnitude, where you would put the record on and it would take you through a listening experience from beginning to end and not necessarily have anything to do with radio popularity.
And that's not to give short shrift to the songs on side 1 of the album, because even the songs that weren't up to Beach Boys' singles standards, songs like Good to My Baby and Don't Hurt My Little Sister, any other American pop band of 1965 would have killed to have had songs as good as those. But we're probably going to focus a little more on side 2, I would think. And it's not the first time that the Beach Boys separated songs based on their musicality. And in other words, if you go back to the Christmas album of 1964, you had their upbeat teen pop Christmas songs on side 1, and on side 2, the quieter, more mature, I suppose, or introspective Christmas carols.
I think you make a really good point in referencing the Christmas album, because I think that's where Brian had that introductory first-hand experience working with arranger Dick Reynolds.
Yeah.
And I think that for sure lent itself to him being exposed to strings and kind of being able to draw out more emotive, enhanced sonic passages than he previously had. And that's a pretty interesting... I think you make a very strong point there, and I don't think I'd ever kind of, as much as I have thought about their catalog before, that I think is probably a very pivotal element to what happened next.
Well, here's a loaded question. Do you have a favorite song on the album?
Oh, boy. The Today album, I think the song that really probably When I Grow Up to Be a Man, because I remember listening to that, and maybe it's because of the album sequence that you're hearing him first. It's first Do You Want to Dance, and it's obviously a guy singing to a girl, and Hold My Hand, Tell Me Baby. And then he goes into Good to My Baby, how he's treating the girl. And then all of a sudden you're hearing a song called Don't Hurt My Little Sister. It's kind of the big brother standing. And then through all that you have When I Grow Up to Be a Man. And what I love about that song, what I immediately connected, because I heard that song on radio before I experienced the album.
Right.
And what I immediately connected on was that them counting the age.
Yes.
As the song goes. And, 22, 23,
right.
Won't last forever. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And my God, that whole counter, the counting, won't last forever. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, I know.
Man, and now as I'm getting older, I'm like, well, you could just keep doing that refrain over and over and over, and you could just keep on counting.
I'll tell you what. When I maybe around 17 or 18, when I used to listen to the song, I would say in this rather smug tone to myself, well, I know I'm old when my age won't be in the fade out of this song.
Exactly. You could listen to it when it got up to 22,
right,
23.
Right.
You're like, well, I'm almost there, but I'm not. I'm still growing up to be a man. But as soon as that age doesn't, it's faded, and you're in your 40s. It's a whole different ball of wax.
It's like, what? I'm not even being sung about here. I remember at 31 going, oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. I'm still in there. In this world, in this Beach Boys universe, I'm still technically kind of young, but now it's all over for me.
Yeah, it's all over for me. It's hopeless.
When I grow up to be.
No, not in the fade out anymore. We're talking to David Beard, editor of Endless Summer Quarterly magazine, about the Beach Boys' classic 1965 album, The Beach Boys Today. David, my favorite cut on the album is from Side 2. In fact, the first song on Side 2, Please Let Me Wonder.
Yeah, I think that one that was a flip side, right?
Yeah.
That was Do You Want to Dance?
Yeah, it was either Do You Want to Dance or Dance, Dance, Dance. I'm not quite sure.
And I just remember just Carl's spoken,
yes,
I love you.
Yeah.
And, and it's interesting. That's just one of those early songs. Whenever you talk to Bruce Johnston about the Beach Boys catalog before he was a member of the group, he never really has anything specifically prolific
to
say. But yet, this is this is the song that he does in concert. This is the song that he really seems to connect to. This is the song that he redid with the King Singers back in '97, where Mike actually came in and wrote an additional lyric,
right,
and sang. And so for whatever reason, here's this song, this lovely little chestnut that Bruce really connected to, and you can actually see it in Bruce's later work, like Disney Girls and Deirdre and Tears in the Morning.
Right.
It's interesting that this is before Bruce, but you can see how that song affected him as a Beach Boy and as just as a recording artist in general.
Well, I'll tell you, when I first heard this song, I heard it on a bootleg, actually. I heard just the tracking session, so just the music, no voice melody, no, just background vocals and music, and I was hooked with that. So when I finally got the album and I was able to hear the lyrics, and these are Mike's lyrics, I was struck by the unique situation that the song presents. Now, if I'm interpreting the lyrics correctly, not like this is Ulysses by James Joyce, but the protagonist of this song is with a girl. He's sharing a moment with a girl, and he's saying, you know what, let me just enjoy it. I'm not sure exactly how you feel about me, and maybe the answer might not be what I want to hear.
Don't tell me yet, because I'm afraid you might break my heart.
Right. This is a love song that's riddled with self-doubt, and it's a real moment, and people go through this all the time. It doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl. And to use that idea for a song was really unique. To capture that kind of moment just speaks to, the magic of this record.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and the whole album is kind of like even with the pop stuff on it. We obviously had the better version of "Help Me, Rhonda" on the next album of "Summer Days," but this was this early version of "Help Me, Rhonda." This is the guy needs the girl's help. Then it's "Dance, Dance, Dance." We're just having a good time. Then it's "Please Let Me Wonder." He has feelings for the girl. then he realizes how young he is. He still has to grow,
Yep.
and then he wants her to kiss him. With it's just this great evocative. It's probably a strong of a concept album, with the exception of Bull Session for Big Daddy, which is a throwaway.
Yeah.
As much as All Summer Long is in the context of a summer album, and as much as Pet Sounds is a kind of let's move into the next phase of our lives together.
Great lyric there. For so long I thought about it, now I can't live without it, this beautiful image I have of you. In other words, don't spoil it by telling me how you really feel about me. The song right after this, Kiss Me Baby, which we're going to play at the end of this discussion because it just has to be played, just a brilliant song. Again, turmoil in a relationship there where the guy and the girl aren't really getting along, and they're fighting and kissing and making up. And then you get to the last proper song on the album, She Knows Me Too Well. Talk about unique situations for songwriting topics. Here, the main protagonist of the song is a jerk. What Brian is describing is not the classic, this woman is the world to me and I'm on my knees. He's kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just so unique.
It is. Well, and that speaks to God Only Knows, too. God Only Knows is a strange song when you think about it. The way it's the protagonist in the song, he says, I may not always love you as long as there are stars above you.
Right.
But, who knows? All bets could be off tomorrow.
Yeah. These are, and I think a lot of this stuff is overlooked. That's why I'm glad we're having these discussions, because I think you're supposed to just take them at face value. You hear the song and you kind of get the sentiment, and but there's just really interesting all throughout this whole record. Really interesting concepts. Good to My Baby is another one, almost like a companion piece to She Knows Me Too Well. Where everybody thinks that he's kind of mean to his girl, but he's saying, well, when I get her alone, it's a different story. Don't hurt my
My Baby is just another great song. I mean, just Mike's bass, the guitar on there is great.
Good to my baby. Good to my
Two great cuts from the Beach Boys Today album, released in March of 1965. David Beard and I have been discussing this record, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with the album, you may have seen the album cover. It's kind of famous. It's where the guys are looking very collegiate.
Yes, wearing their sweaters.
In their sweaters, right.
Sitting on a diving board.
Right, yeah.
Although you may not realize that's what it is. You can see kind of the bars of the little ladder that you would pull yourself out of the pool.
Right.
But that's about all you can see, because for whatever reason they cropped it. I don't know why they didn't let their legs hang off the diving board show on the rest of the album. It is a little strange.
I guess that would open the question: why would guys in sweaters be on
the pool?
Right. What's that all about? But you recently saw, and I'm sure some of our audience has seen, Brian Wilson and the Jeff Beck tour, and also Mike and Bruce touring as the Beach Boys, where they've performed some of these songs in concert, and I wanted to get your impressions of both of those.
I'm just going to dial back a little bit to the beginning of October, because the show that I saw first of the two was the Brian Wilson and Jeff Beck show. And I don't know if your listeners know this or not, but Brian does have Al Jardine and David Marks, both original founding members of the Beach Boys, with him on his tour with him. And they came out and they opened the show, and then Jeff Beck comes on after Brian and Al and David do a set. And Jeff Beck does a set, and then at the end of the show, it kind of encores with Brian and his band, with David and Al joining Jeff Beck with his band, and then they do a slew of songs, ending with Barbara Ann Surfing USA, and then Danny Boy, which is just instrumental. And my understanding is, it's just a quick aside, my understanding is this is going to be one of the songs that appears on the Beck-Wilson album. I don't know if it'll be Brian's next album or what it will be, but that's one of the earliest songs of Brian's life that he used to sing. But to your question about the show, the October 4th show in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Chastain Amphitheater is where I saw Brian with Al, David, and Jeff Beck. Brian's set, we're talking about the Today album, And the thing I got to see during, and I got excited about during soundcheck, but you never know. You see soundcheck, and they don't always perform what you see in soundcheck at the show. But Jeffrey Foskett and Brian's band, they came out and did "She Knows Me Too Well," and I have to tell you, Jeff just knocked it right out of the park. You know, Foskett's about the only guy you can pull that off. I mean, that's a unique. Really a unique vocal range, and he just so beautiful, and he really captured the essence of that song, because you have to be able to emote that. You could hit it pitch for pitch,
right?
But if you're not emoting it in the way that it was written, you're performing it fine, you're executing it fine, but you're not hitting it. Then it was followed by "Little Bird," performed by David Marks. Now, I had never seen "Little Bird" performed in in concert. Before, ever. I would never even dreamed I would get to see that. And A Friend's album is one of my favorites. So to see David do that song and kind of do it, and I say this word in the highest regard, effortlessly.
Right.
That it just sounded so quintessentially David Marks, knowing it's a Dennis Wilson song. Just kind of really made me appreciate those two, the relationship that David and Dennis had when they were younger, because you could feel Dennis coming through. Then they did "The Hearts Were Full of Spring," which was beautiful. And then they went from Old Man River into Cotton Fields, which, of course, that's where Al took the lead.
Right.
That's one of the great Al Jardine folk standards that he loves to do. Then a couple of other, they did "Forever." God Only Knows, Sloop John B. Wouldn't It Be Nice? I'm not somebody who knows Jeff Beck's music. I sat through his set and found him to be a great guitarist, and thought elements of his playing style reminded me of Joe Walsh, who I do appreciate as an Eagle. But the high point of the Jeff Beck interaction with Brian Wilson was doing the song "Surf's Up," where Jeff led. Anybody can look this up on YouTube. It's actually up. The people have taped it from the shows, but also his performance from the 2005 Music Cares Person of the Year, where Brian was honored, had Brian's band backing up Jeff Beck playing, instead of the lead vocal, the lead guitar to it. And so, great moment, really interesting. Beck did the Beatles' "A Day in the Life," which was I knew it, I recognized it, and that was interesting to see. But then the standard Barbara Ann, "Surfing USA," and like I said, Danny Boy. Now, when you go fast forward to October 19th, which was in Florence, South Carolina, with Mike and Bruce, that was the person that I would single out in that show that, to me, was the backbone, and I guess this is usually the case, was the drummer John Cowsill. Last year, in seeing the Beach Boys' 50th anniversary show, I was already aware of John, from not because of the Cowsills, but just seeing the Mike and Bruce's show in 2009, 2011. So by the time last year came around, just watching John, for lack of a better word, pummel the drums. He has a pure, vibrant energy that is as kind of aggressive as Dennis, but more precision, like Neil Peart from Rush. I mean, or Stuart Copeland from the Police, and he doesn't stop the whole show.
Right.
But they do, nothing really specifically out of the ordinary. They did "When I Grow Up to Be a Man" from the Today album. They did "Please Let Me Wonder" from the Today album, and they threw a couple in there. Now, Mike does like to perform his song "Cool Head, Warm Heart" that came out on the Hallmark CD back in 2006. That came across a little clunky, and I was surprised because the rest of the show, like I said, was so precisioned, and I don't know what it was, but it just wasn't happening as tight as the rest of the music. But I'll tell you what was great about this show was the encore.
Mm-hmm.
They came out and did "Wild Honey" with John Cowsill singing lead.
Right.
Just Just incredible. Followed by the track that has recently resurfaced on the Beach Boys box set made in California, Going to the Beach. And
Right.
it just fit. And then ending with Surfin' USA. You would have thought Going to the Beach was in the Beach Boys catalog, and I'll bet you the audience, when they heard it, thought, oh, this must just be one I forgot about.
Yep.
Because it just fits right in there. And they nailed it, and it felt great right after Wild Honey. The energy was perfect. It just was just a really great, energetic listening experience. It's important to note, I had a couple go with me to the Florence show, an older couple, both in their early 60s. He's a retired military guy. He's only seen the Beach Boys twice in his lifetime. And that second time being October 19th. The first time was in 1968. He remembered it. And he said they were very nervous about playing this new instrument to replicate the sound of the theremin.
Right.
He remembered that so well. And this couple's in our church choir with us. So from this couple's perspective, they didn't know necessarily who was in the group or anything like that. Of course, they were asking me on the drive down to explain what we were going to see. And I said, well, you're basically going to get to see a lot of very familiar Beach Boy hits.
Right.
That's what you're in for. That's what you're going to get this evening. And they got it. And going all the way back, they were like kids. At the Brian show, I sat with a musician friend who is a guitarist. While I'm not a Jeff Beck fan per se, he really dug it. And after the show, his highlight turned out to be David Marks doing Little Bird. and he had seen the Beach Boys minus Brian in the early 70s.
Right.
So, and he saw them last year, and he saw Brian in 2011, and this was a highlight to him, seeing David Marks do Little Bird. He's not wrong.
Right.
And the couple who went with me to see Mike and Bruce aren't wrong. If you just, want to have a good time out on a weekend night or something like that, and you want to go watch Mike Love and Bruce Johnston perform very familiar hits that kind of have defined the last 50 years of our society in the United States, well then you're in for a great show. But that, we've been talking about the Today album. We've been talking about how that music happened, and that came from Brian Wilson. So even every time Mike performs, he's acknowledging his cousin's genius.
Right.
And I think that can't be overstated. I think, it's nice that we have a choice, that if you want to make a choice and you want to go to one, just go wherever it makes you happy.
I will say that David Beard, who's joined us several times to chat about the Beach Boys, is the editor of Endless Summer Quarterly, which is now in its 26th year. You might have to do a 50th anniversary tour at some point. And people can write to P.O. Box 470315, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28247 to subscribe or to find out more. Or just go to esquarterly.com. And I don't know if you want to send people over to the Facebook page. That's up to you, but...
oh, sure.
Okay, facebook.com/esq.editor.
Yeah.
And you can find out what's going to be happening in the next issue and find out what the Beach Boys are doing today. See, it all ties in together there. There's a big, long concept.
It does. And I'll tell you, the one thing I can definitely share is I was able to visit with Mike and David and Al and Brian backstage at the different venues, and they're all really in great spirits. And that, I think, again, that speaks to the fact that they're getting to do what they love, and that's perform for their fans.